The Democratic candidates were out in force today, assuring voters they have a plan to curb gun violence. But despite last weekend's deadly mass shootings, new gun policy remains a very tough sell. Ed O'Keefe reports from Des Moines, Iowa.
We should have a national licensing program in this country.
I'm prepared by executive action to ban the importation of assault weapons into our country.
We need far more bolder action to make our nation safe.
Democratic presidential candidates spent yet another day on the campaign trail focused on gun control policy, about a week since mass shootings in Texas and Ohio.
What we really need to do is also pass a ban on assault weapons, particularly the military-style weapons.
Democrats are pushing President Trump and Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to reconvene the Republican-controlled Senate to pass a bipartisan gun background check bill that passed earlier this year in the House.
It would pass, in my judgment, the president would sign it, and we would take a giant step forward.
The president says he would support meaningful changes to the gun background check system. But Louisiana Republican Congressman Steve Scalise, who survived an assassination attempt, doubts the proposed changes would help.
The shooters in both in El Paso and in Dayton passed background checks. So we need to make sure that the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security have the tools they need to go and root out whether it's white supremacists, whether it's radicals from the left that are committing some of these crimes.
Here in the first-in-the-nation caucus state of Iowa, voters agree the nation's gun laws need changes. But they also want to hear about other topics.
The small legislation that the Democrats are asking for is not much. They're just background checks.
You can talk about red flags, you can talk about background checks. The bottom line is that we have weapons of war in people's hands who don't need them.
I don't like the mudslinging. That can easily turn me off. I think here we have Iowa nice.
So, Ed, voters in Iowa get a far more detailed look at these presidential candidates. What else are they telling you they're interested in or concerned about?
Well, for one thing, Elaine, they're overwhelmed. 24 candidates remain in the race, and you ask the everyday Iowan to name a presidential candidate or two. They might be able to mention Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, but that's it. And it's a sign that they perhaps are hoping that the field starts to winnow soon. As for the issues, here in Iowa and across the country, there seems to be great support for expanding background checks and maybe looking at some other gun laws. But there is more concern, more interest in health care, the future of the economy, and climate change. So it'll be interesting to see if the candidates will keep the focus this coming week on gun control or move on to something else. Elaine?
All right, Ed O'Keefe in Iowa for us. Ed, thank you.